It's been 10 years since 5 people were killed and 10 others were wounded during a shooting at a middle school in Jonesboro, Arkansas.
You got a firearm permit or anything?
This video, evidence in the trial, shows police after they stopped Mitchell Johnson's van last year. Prosecutors say he also had 21 grams of marijuana. Tests to determine whether Johnson actually had marijuana.
From an 11-year-old in Arkansas to a middle school shooter in Washington, here are some of the youngest and most tragic school shooters in history. Andrew Golden and Mitchell Johnson. On March 24, 1998, a tragic event occurred at Westside Middle School in Jonesboro, Arkansas. 2 boys, Andrew Golden and Mitchell Johnson, carried out one of the deadliest school shootings in the history of the United States. Andrew Golden was just 11 years old, and Mitchell Johnson was 13 years old. Together, they planned a horrifying attack that would leave their small town in shock and grief. Their ages made this incident particularly troubling, as it involved children who were far from the age one would typically associate with such a violent act. The day started like any other at Westside Middle School, but everything changed when Andrew and Mitchell executed their planned attack. First, they pulled the fire alarm. When students and teachers began to evacuate the building, the 2 boys opened fire on them. Andrew and Mitchell had armed themselves with several weapons, and they were shooting at innocent people who were simply following the evacuation procedure. Their actions resulted in the deaths of 5 people. 4 of the victims were students, and 1 was a teacher. In addition to those involved, 10 others were wounded in the attack. The community was left devastated as the news spread, and people struggled to understand how 2 boys could commit such a horrific crime. After the shooting, Andrew and Mitchell were arrested and taken into custody. Due to their ages, they were not eligible for the death penalty or life imprisonment under Arkansas law. Instead, both boys were sentenced to juvenile detention. Their sentence would last until they turned 21 years old, which meant that despite the seriousness of their crime, they would be released after serving several years in juvenile detention. This outcome angered many people, who felt that the punishment did not fit the crime. The fact that the boys would walk free after taking 5 lives was difficult for many to accept, especially the families of the victims. Another tragic case involving a young school shooter occurred on November 2, 1987, in Butte, Montana. Nathan Ferris. Nathan Ferris was just 12 years old when he became the shooter in a tragic incident. He was a young boy who many saw as quiet and shy. He lived in a small town with his parents and younger sister. His friends described him as someone who liked to stay home and play video games. But on one fateful day, Nathan shocked everyone. The incident happened at his school. That morning seemed like any other day. Nathan attended his classes like usual, and no one noticed anything strange. But later that afternoon, Nathan did something unthinkable. He brought a gun to school and opened fire. His actions caused fear and panic among students and teachers. Many ran for cover while others called for help. The entire school went into lockdown as the situation became more serious. Nathan's reason for doing this remains unclear. Some say he was bullied by other students and felt like no one cared about him. But then some believe that he may have been influenced by violent video games or movies. But one thing is certain, the tragedy left a lasting impact on the community. Parents, teachers, and students were in shock and disbelief. After the shooting, Nathan was taken into custody. The authorities began an investigation to find out what led him to commit such a crime. Nathan's family was devastated by the news. His parents could not understand how their son had reached this point. They never imagined that he would be capable of such violence. Many in the town felt the same way. James Sheets. On April 24, 2003, another tragic event took place at Red Lion Area Junior High School in Pennsylvania. A 14-year-old boy named James Sheets brought a handgun to school with the intent to take his school principal's life. The principal, Mr. Eugene Seagrow, had a good reputation and was known for his dedication to the school. But James Sheets decided to take his life for reasons that were never fully clear. He walked into the school building, found the principal in the cafeteria, and shot him in front of several students and staff members. The shooting caused immediate chaos at the school as students and teachers fled in fear. Many of them could not believe that someone so young would do something so violent. Mr. Segro was rushed to the hospital, but his wounds were too severe. He died shortly after the attack. The loss of their principal deeply affected the school community. Mr. Segro was a figure of authority and support, and his death left a hole that would not be easily filled. Students and teachers alike mourned his loss, and counseling services were provided to help them cope with the trauma. James Sheets did not try to flee the scene after shooting the principal. Instead, he turned the gun on himself and took his own life. Some speculated that he may have had personal issues or conflicts with the principal, but the exact motives were never fully uncovered. His death left many questions unanswered. Michael Carneal. On December 1st, 1997, another school shooting shook the nation, this time in West Paducah, Kentucky. A 14-year-old boy named Michael Carneal brought a gun to Heath High School and opened fire on a group of students who were praying together in the hallway. Michael had stolen the gun from his neighbor's garage and had brought it to school with the intention of causing harm. His decision to target a group of students who were engaged in prayer added a chilling element to the already horrific event. Michael fired several shots at the group, taking the life of 3 students and wounding 5 others. The students were unarmed and defenseless, and they had no way of protecting themselves from the sudden attack. The shooting left the entire school in shock as students and teachers tried to process what had just happened. Many of the students who witnessed the attack were traumatized by the sight of their friends being gunned down, and the emotional toll of the event would last for years. After the shooting, Michael was quickly arrested and taken into custody. He showed little emotion during his arrest, and many people wondered what had driven him to commit such a senseless act of violence. Some think that he had been bullied at school or that he was struggling with mental health issues. But the exact reasons for his actions were never fully clear. What was certain, however, was the immense pain and loss that the shooting had caused. Michael Carneal was sentenced to life in prison for the shooting, but he would be eligible for parole after 25 years. His case reignited debates about how to handle juveniles who commit serious crimes. Some people believed that Michael should have been given a chance at rehabilitation, while others felt that he deserved to spend the rest of his life in prison for taking the lives of 3 innocent students. The possibility of parole meant that Michael could one day be released from prison, which was a difficult thought for the families of the victims to accept. Lastly, we have another tragic school shooting involving a 14-year-old occurred on February 2nd, 1996, in Moses Lake, Washington. Barry Loukatis. On that day, Barry Loukatis walked into his algebra class at Frontier Middle School and opened fire on his classmates and teacher. Barry had been influenced by violent movies, books, and media, which seemed to shape his dark fantasies. He had carefully planned the attack and had brought multiple weapons to school with the intention of causing harm. When Barry entered the classroom, he immediately started shooting. He killed 2 students and their teacher, leaving the rest of the class in shock and terror. One other student was also wounded in the attack, but they managed to survive. The violence took place so quickly that many of the students did not have time to react. They were left frozen in fear as they watched their classmates and teacher fall to the ground. After the shooting, Barry was apprehended and taken into custody. He showed little remorse for what he had done, and it became clear that he had been influenced by the violent media he consumed. He had even quoted lines from movies during the attack, further emphasizing the role that external influences had played in shaping his mindset. Barry's case sparked widespread discussions about the impact of violent media on young people and whether exposure to such content could contribute to real-life violence. Barry Loukatis was eventually sentenced to life in prison for his crimes. His young age at the time of the shooting raised questions about how juveniles should be treated in the justice system. Now, before you leave, make sure to give this video a like and also smash that subscribe button for more upcoming content in the future. Until then, stay safe and keep exploring.